Hello everyone from rainy Moscow. Today is 25th of March. Now it's 15 past 1, middle of the day by Moscow time. And well, this is first news update for the day. I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find this update informative and interesting for members of our bigger community on YouTube and Rumble that might watch short episodes from this update on YouTube and Rumble. I will note that if they want to have access to full program, to full show, they can become a Patreon of this project or sponsor by subscribing to my pages on Patreon and Boosty, and access will be granted not just for news updates but also to some additional extra content that I have there. For example, yesterday I published first episode of a new program, Random Stuff. That's the name of the program, and as it says, it's a random stuff, by the way, about daily life here in Russia. It is about news also, but also about just daily stuff that goes on, right? It is entertaining content, and hopefully members of our communities on Patreon and Boosty will like this new addition to programming there, and many more other programs are also in a working. That's been said, well, I can only add that links to my Patreon and Boosty are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment under every video that I have on YouTube and Rumble. Anyways, that's been said. Let's go through some news now. And first of all, I will start, of course, with reports about this really long talks that happened yesterday in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, between Russian and US delegations. Negotiations lasted over 12 hours, and until now, there was no joint statement on these talks, which definitely can be seen as an indicator that talks were difficult, negotiations were difficult, and the sides did not really manage to find common ground on many of the topics that they discuss. This is my understanding of the situation, but anyways, press spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, commented on this talks and stated that results of the Riyadh talks will not be published despite the expectations that there will be some joint statement or some speeches of their delegations. But no, we should not expect that. The content of the talks between Russia and the United States in Riyadh will definitely not be published. The contacts were technical in nature, said Dmitry Peskov, press secretary of the Russian president. We have a quote here of Peskov. You see, we are talking about technical negotiations, technical ones. These are the negotiations with a deep dive into details. So, of course, let's say the content of the technical negotiations will definitely not be published. This should not be expected. This is the first thing. And second, I repeat once again, now the reports made in the capital, reports from Russian delegation about these talks, are being analyzed, and only then will it be possible to talk about some understandings. Peskov told the journalists, answering the question about whether statements or speeches by officials are planned following their negotiations in Riyadh. The talks between Russian and US delegations on yesterday in Riyadh, started at around 10 o'clock Moscow time and ended late in the evening. Russia was represented at the meeting by the head of the International Committee of the Federation Council, Grigory Karasin, heavyweight diplomat, by the way, senator here in Russia, and also by their advisor to FSB director, Sergei Beseder, who also has a great volume, of experience in international and security affairs. Talks were expected to focus on the nuances of a possible resumption of their initiative concerning the safety of navigation in the Black Sea, which was discussed during the last phone conversation between the two presidents, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. And my guess is that delegations did not spend 12 hours just to talk about this Black Sea initiative, which might if agreed, might turn into like Green Deal 2.0, and I don't think Moscow really wants that. I guess many other topics were discussed during this conversation. We can have an informed guess, for example, and it's not that difficult, really. I mean, in order to, let's say, at least little bit improve bilateral relationships between US and Russia, or to move forward with the final resolution of the Ukrainian crisis, it is obvious that number of steps have to be taken by Russian enemies, right, or by the countries that are involved in this proxy war against Russia. And US, unfortunately, is leading the charge in anti-Russian hostilities, right? And US was is the country which is mostly responsible for whatever happened in and around Ukraine since 2014, when US Secret Services, US administration, conducted authorized and then supported this bloody coup d'etat, after which extremists, all sorts of extremists, Nazis, fascists, and terrorists end up in power in Kiev. So, I mean, to achieve any even slight progress, I mean, for me personally, it is obvious that the US has to stop weapons deliveries to Kiev regime, this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. US has to stop intelligence sharing. US has to use its influence among, on other NATO member states to make sure that these other countries will also cease hostilities against Russia. US leadership, in my opinion, has to stop messing around and acting tough in regards to relationships with Russia or the Ukrainian crisis. I don't think this is the time or the place to act that way. It does not help in any way, shape, or form. I think it will be better if US leadership openly admits that, I mean, if US administration openly says that, well, it was a grave mistake on part of Western ruling class, on part of collective West, to conduct this coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014, and then to push situation towards further escalation and eventually to provoke this proxy war against Russia, to start this proxy war against Russia. And, if Trump, his teammates will say it openly, it will be much easier for them then to take some concrete, real steps towards the escalation. And once again, I mean, they can start with halting any weapons deliveries, any intelligence sharing with this terrorist regime of Zelensky. Also, obviously, US has to agree on compensations for Russia, for all the damage, for all the losses that Russia suffered due to these hostile actions of the US and their other NATO member states. Tens of thousands of Russian citizens were killed there as a result of this hostility of the collective West. Numerous infrastructure objects were damaged there. Numerous facilities in energy infrastructure, including Nord Stream pipeline that was destroyed by US, right? And there are some other NATO member states. So obviously, collective West, if they really want to de-escalate, eventually will have to agree that compensations need to be addressed and they're paid to Russia, right? And only then, only if this basics being agreed, only after that we may move forward. And I guess Russian delegation yesterday in Riyadh make it very clear for US representatives that, I mean, they are not some sort of mediators, even if they want very much to act like ones. They are representing country that is a side in this conflict. So as long as the US administration is not acknowledging objective realities, they will be almost impossible to achieve any progress in bilateral relationships or in regards to Ukrainian crisis, which is unfortunate, by the way, because longer US leadership continues messing around there longer this conflict will continue, and there will be more casualties, more destruction, more tragedies, unfortunately. But Trump's administration still has a chance to fast track some positive developments if they are brave enough. Really, that's all it comes down to, isn't it? Because any steps made by U.S. administration, real steps towards de-escalation, will be attacked by globalists and puppets of the globalists in the governments of collective West countries, especially in Europe, as it happened, by the way, when U.S. formally halted their weapons deliveries and intelligence sharing for several days to this Western-backed terrorist regime. You all remember level of hysteria, isn't it, in among European elites when that happened. So if Trump, his team, is brave enough to face these psychopaths, from other NATO member states and to deal with their backlash, then we can actually move forward quite rapidly towards at least improving relationships little bit, at least between Russia and US, and towards final resolution of the Ukrainian crisis. Otherwise, these talks, I mean, what is the point really of these talks if US leadership is not really ready to face the reality? And to be brave, by the way, because to acknowledge that you lost, you have to be brave. You know? And the Western ruling class has to acknowledge that they lost this proxy war. There is no way around it, right? They have to acknowledge, and the governments in anti-Russian coalition that were actively involved in this proxy war have to acknowledge that they lost this proxy war against Russia, and they have to face the consequences now for their criminal actions, right? Otherwise, hostilities will continue. Russia will reach all its goals anyways, and the Western ruling class, collective West countries, will find themselves in an even more difficult situation that they are right now in all possible ways. So yes, we should not expect any joint statements in regards to yesterday's talks. And Maria Zakharova, spokeswoman of the Russian Foreign Ministry, stated yesterday that we should not expect also breakthroughs during these talks, which is correct, understandable statement. We should not expect any breakthroughs because, once again, in my personal opinion, U.S. leadership is not yet ready to fully face the reality, and take all the necessary steps for a real de-escalation. That's my understanding of the situation, and seems like Russian leadership is on same page in this regard. Hello everyone, if you find this video informative and interesting, if you like my work in general, please consider to support this independent media project from Russia. You can do it through several means, through PayPal with donations, or by subscribing to my Patreon and Boosty pages, where you can have access to full news updates. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Thank you.